In the massive, high-stakes game of World War II espionage, one of the Allies' biggest weapons wasn't some general or a super soldier. Nope. It was a former chicken farmer from Spain who literally invented an entire army out of thin air. Okay, let's get into this incredible true story. So this is the man, Juan Pujol García. And he pulled off something that sounds completely impossible. He was decorated for his service by Nazi Germany and by Great Britain at the same time. So how on earth did one man manage to fool an entire regime and end up a war hero for two sides fighting to destroy each other?
To really get who Juan Pujol was, you have to go back to the conflict that made him. See, his journey into spying didn't start because he loved one country. It started because he absolutely hated extremism of any kind.
Pujol found himself caught right in the middle of the incredibly brutal Spanish Civil War. On one side, his family's factory gets seized by the Republicans. On the other side, he deserts to the nationalists, only to find their fascist ideology just as horrifying.
I mean, his whole experience was this crazy nightmare of contradictions. On the Republican side, the same government he was forced to fight for was persecuting him. And on the nationalist side, he gets thrown in prison just for his beliefs. So all of this created this deep, powerful conviction in him. He had to fight both of these ideologies. He was actually proud that he managed to serve on both sides without ever firing a single bullet. He decided he was going to make his contribution for the good of humanity.
So with World War II kicking off, Pujol goes to the British embassy in Madrid and offers to be a spy. And they turned him down. Again and again. Now, most people would have just walked away. But Juan Pujol, well, he was not most people.
Pujol's plan was, frankly, kind of nuts. If the British wouldn't take him, fine, he'd get the Germans to hire him first, and then he'd go back to the British as a ready-made double agent. So he cooks up this fake identity as a fanatical pro-Nazi official, gets himself recruited by German military intelligence, the Abwehr, and they tell him, great, go to Britain and build us a spy network. Instead, he just goes to Lisbon. And even though he'd never even been to the UK, he starts making up all this fake intelligence using a tourist guide, some train schedules, and whatever newsreels he could get his hands on.
And you can just see how much he was winging it from some of his early mistakes. At one point, he files this report claiming that his spy in Glasgow could be motivated with wine. Now, anyone who knew anything about Scotland or the fact that Britain doesn't use the metric system would have laughed this off. But here's the crazy part. The Germans bought it. They were so desperate to believe they had a man on the inside that they just glossed over the obvious flaws. They were totally convinced he was in Britain, building a real network.
So all these completely made-up reports, these fabrications, eventually get the attention of the very people who had rejected him in the first place. Just not quite in the way he'd planned.
Right, so British counterintelligence, MI5, they start picking up his radio messages to the Germans, and they're convinced they're from a real German spy operating on British soil. So they launch this massive manhunt for a guy who isn't even in the country, and for a spy ring that existed only in Pujol's head.
The big turning point came when Pujol fed the Germans info about a totally fictional Allied convoy. The German Navy wasted a ton of resources hunting for ships that didn't exist. That's when the British finally realized this mystery agent was actually doing their work for them. So, in 1942, they bring him to Britain and give him the codenamed Garbo, because his handler said he was the best actor in the world.
So once he's in Britain, working with his MI5 handler, Thomas Harris, Garbo's one-man show goes from a solo act to a full-blown orchestra of deception. Together, they bring to life this incredibly complex network of 27 sub-agents, all of them completely made up. Each one had a detailed backstory, a unique personality, a specific role. The Germans were now paying for an entire army of imaginary spies.
Garbo's network was already a huge success, but its greatest, most important performance was still to come. It was about to take center stage in one of the most critical deceptions in military history.
This was Operation Fortitude. As the Allies were gearing up for the D-Day invasion of Normandy, the entire plan hinged on one thing: convincing Hitler that the main attack was coming somewhere else, specifically at the Pas-de-Calais, the shortest point across the English Channel. If they could pull that off, Germany would keep its best troops waiting in the wrong place, giving the Allies a real shot at success.
And to make this lie believable, the Allies built this massive ghost army in southeast England. We're talking inflatable tanks, fake radio chatter, the whole shebang. Garbo's job was to be the voice of this phantom army, sending a steady stream of intelligence from his fake network, all confirming that yes, this was where the real invasion force was gathering.
Okay, now here's the absolute master stroke. June 6th, the Allies hit the beaches in Normandy. But Garbo's work isn't done.
3 days later, he sends what might be the most important message of the war. He tells the Germans that the Normandy invasion is just a feint, a trick to draw their forces away from the Pas-de-Calais, where the real, much bigger invasion is still coming.
And they believed him. They absolutely believed him. The German High Command kept 2 entire armored divisions and 19 infantry divisions sitting in the Pas-de-Calais waiting for an attack that was never going to happen. Those are the troops that could have crushed the Normandy beachhead. Garbo's lie saved countless Allied lives and was absolutely critical to the success of D-Day.
So the war finally ends, but the story of Juan Pujol García has one last, completely unbelievable twist. His deception was so perfect that the Nazis never ever figured out that they had been played.
Get this, on July 29, 1944, Garbo is awarded the Iron Cross by Germany for his incredible service to the Third Reich, an award that had to be personally approved by Hitler. Just 4 months later, he's made a member of the Order of the British Empire by King George VI. He has to be one of the only people in history to be decorated by both sides in World War II. After the war, he was terrified that surviving Nazis would hunt him down, so MI5 helped him fake his own death. He moved to Venezuela, ran a bookstore, and lived in complete anonymity for decades. The world thought he was dead until 1984, when a British writer finally tracked him down. And that same year, on the 40th anniversary of D-Day, he went back to the beaches of Normandy to pay his respects.
Garbo's story is it's an incredible testament to the power of pure human ingenuity and imagination. And it leaves us with a really fascinating question for today, doesn't it? In our age of satellites, AI, and constant surveillance, could a lie this big, orchestrated by one brilliant mind, ever be possible again?